Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Let me just make sure I put my timer on so I know what we're doing and how long. Okay, we're good. As you can see, my name is Joanna. It's actually Asha Gandecka. So let me tell you a little bit about my name before I start anything else. I was born and raised in Poland. I left home about 12 years ago. But Joanna is the full legal name. It's actually pronounced Joanna in Polish. And then from Joanna, you go to Joasha to Asha. So anybody that knows me from Poland would always call me Asha. That's just normally what I go for. That's what people know me at Microsoft as well. I do work for Microsoft. And yes, it's spelled Asia. They named the continent after me, but totally mispronounce it every time. So it is what it is. I kind of have to live with that. I am a premier field engineer at Microsoft. For SharePoint, my technology specialty is SharePoint. Been with Microsoft for almost 5 years. Seems like forever ago. At the same time, like I started yesterday. And before Microsoft, actually lived in Duluth, Minnesota, or I should say Minnesota. You betcha, don't you know, all that kind of stuff. That was where I ended up for college before Microsoft. So without that, I'm going to go on with what I'm going to present to you. I don't have too much of PowerPoint. That actually is my last slide for you. I will do a lot of demos. That is kind of what I prefer to do because that's the way you interact with computers, not just by staring at the dev. And not, dev of PowerPoint, I'm sure, happens way too often. Okay, so what we're going to go over is OneDrive for Business, new sync clients, new admin center, SharePoint home portal. There's some updates that happened recently, and modern team sites. I might go a little bit out of order that I have in here. May 4th, or May the 4th be with you kind of day, we announced a lot of changes to SharePoint, what is coming, what is the future of SharePoint, and I'll bring as much as I can in the next 2 hours that we have here for you. I will concentrate on OneDrive for Business, because that is kind of my area of expertise within SharePoint to give you anything. And I know some of you might have known SharePoint pretty well, some of you might not know it at all, so I will try to kind of build it up from scratch for those that have no idea what SharePoint is. You might not even know how to spell it. That's okay. I'll help you with that too. So let's go on to my demos. And I will sit down for those. If you can't hear me, just let me know. I think my voice kind of carries, but if you can't, just tell me to scream more. And I will try to make sure that I use Zoom it so that you can see anything that I'm doing. So first thing first, let's go to OneDrive for Office 365. The easiest way, I already am logged in, is to actually type in portal.office.com. If you are not familiar with Office 365, the easiest way to get there is by typing in portal.office.com and then utilize your credentials. There's a free trial. If you never tried it before, you don't know what it is. It actually consists of SharePoint, of course. We have Exchange. If any of you ever used emails, that's kind of part. We have an online version of that. We also have Skype for Business, also known as Link in the past days. And there's some extra features that keep being added. Part of Yammer is kind of considered part of Office 365, but it does not come as the same subscription. It's a separate subscription. So I'm going to cover just the SharePoint parts, including OneDrive for Business. Some of you might think OneDrive for Business is not SharePoint, but currently it is still part of SharePoint. It might at some point, and that's not official, be separated to be a separate entity from SharePoint. However, currently, to get OneDrive for Business, you have to also get the SharePoint Online. Well, lying. There is a way to get it on its own, but it still functions as if it was within SharePoint. So you can only get a OneDrive license. So when you get to portal.office.com, you sign in with your admin account, and there's a little different from on-premises. When you're on-premises, you're the farm admin, you're maybe have full control over those things and all the servers, and you can get to servers. That is not the case with Office 365. You get this little portal, and that's all you can see. You don't actually get access to the servers. That is for your benefit, so nothing breaks unless Microsoft does something, which, you never know, right? But what you get in here is actually a lot of features. So this is the new, it's still called Preview Center, as you can see right there on the top. And do you guys see fine in the back row? We're good? This is the Preview Center, but it's what we're going to soon release to all the tenants as the main one. If you are familiar with it, you can always click to go to the old center. I'm not going to click on that one because it takes some time to switch back and forth. I want to just present the new stuff. So what we're trying to do with the newest look and feel is to make sure that it's easier to navigate and it's more clean. There's been so many times when it's like, I don't know where to find things, so we're trying to reorg that for you. If you're a global admin, meaning you have access to anything that is available within Office 365, you have access to all different features. Not that long ago, we added so-called specialty admin. So instead of, if somebody is just a SharePoint or just Exchange admin, you don't want them to have access to all the subscriptions or, you know, any extra options. Come on in.
Thank you.
And so now we can select that somebody is only a SharePoint admin and having access only to the SharePoint parts of that, or Exchange, and only be able to be part of the Exchange monitoring administration for each of the technologies available. So we are currently at home. We can check out on users. I'm not going to go too much into that one. This is just kind of your Active Directory option. Instead of, you can still have Active Directory on premises, connect, do so-called AD Sync. We used to call it DIRSync. Now it's AD. I think it's Azure AD Sync. So it keeps switching up the names. I know if you are a person that's been in IT for a while, you know that normally we used to do it slowly, and every few years maybe there was an update. You teach this, I could have taught that yesterday, and today there might be some changes, so we kind of have to just embrace the change and keep going. And feel free to stop me at any time if something doesn't make sense and you want to ask some questions. I'm happy to do that. We'll have some time at the end too. But if you wanted to set it up, you can have two options, one with your on-premises and one with having this strictly in the cloud, and you can also set up with your domain. So instead of having the on Microsoft.com, you have your Contoso or signature consulting.com within Office 365. Well, we'll cover a little bit on groups. There's a new thing called Office 365 groups that are to be sort of a replacement to typical DLs. They do tie into SharePoint, so when we get there, I will tell you. We have some, if you are a global admin, you have resources, kind of figuring out, you can set up your room and equipment for that room, kind of being able to have that, hey, I want to sign up to this room and record it in this room or have a meeting in this room. Is it available? So plenty of information there. Come on in. No worries. Some billing support if you need that, settings for you, some security, domain, as I mentioned, figuring out your organizational profile, your naming, who is the main person to contact. Next in here, and I feel like I'm a little in the order, so I'm going to move backwards. We have the reports, and this, if you are an admin, a lot of times you want to know, how is my usage? Is there anything happening? Is people, I paid all this money to use this. Does anybody even log in and does anything with it? So we're creating quite a lot of reports, and they are being more and more new reports are being selected for you. This has been created just a few days ago, not that long ago. You can see that there hasn't been much done from an activity perspective, not too much going on. OneDrive for Business, for example, on that 4/27, there was nothing in there. And then on the 28th, oh my gosh, I got 372 files. I mean, my organization is booming. I'm glad some of my jokes actually work. That's good to know. Perfect. And it tells me who has how many files. Bigger the organization, some of that might seem like too much information, but if you need to do that drilling in and drilling down, you have that option. Another thing that we added from a reports perspective is security and compliance. A lot of organizations are afraid to go to Office 365 because of the security things. And it's like a Fort Knox where the servers are, and it's really hard to get there in, or if you somehow got in, getting out is, I heard, is a very, very interesting trip. from the people that have been telling us how that is set up. But we are making sure that all your data is as secure as it needs to be from a server perspective, and then you also have, as an organization, ways to make sure there is no data loss prevention, that there's ways to check for your information, whether it is being shared incorrectly. If you have a HIPAA requirement, you can set up alerts to tell you if somebody's going against those and things like that. And there's a lot of those that I'm going to go a little bit more into detail later when it relates to SharePoint, on how to set that up and how to make sure that you don't lose the things that you don't want to, even if it's done unintentionally, because that is where the breaches can happen mostly, right? When somebody doesn't know they're doing something they're not supposed to. So I'll show you some of those options as well. And what else we have here? Health, which kind of tells you all the health of services. I saw at the main screen that we had some of the things. We are having issues with Exchange and Skype for Business. Fortunately, my SharePoint is all going up and running, so good for me. Not that I have anything to do with whether it's working or not. And messages board, if there's anything coming up, if there's any update features, or there's going to be some downtime for whichever service, we'll let you know. So as an admin, we have those information for you. We keep that up to date and for you to know. So if something doesn't work in your Office 365, you have a very easy way to come in and be like, oh, yeah, okay, I know why it's not working. And then, of course, you can still get the support, because there's support that comes with Office 365 and contact and start working on it, but you also don't need to guess if there's something broken. We will let you know as soon as we know that is happening. And another thing that we added in here is the Admin Center. So you can see we have different options for, if I was only a SharePoint admin, most of those things would not show up for me. All I would see under most of the things that I already covered wouldn't show up for me to start with. And in this Admin Center option, I would only see the SharePoint part, or the Exchange if I was Exchange admin. So what we're going to do is go to the SharePoint option. And this specific look and feel, for those that are SharePoint admins, this is all you get. You don't get your central administration. This is your modified, per se, central admin. With less features, but only the features that are important to usability in Office 365 and then functionality. You don't have to figure out all the numbers, set up all the servers. You don't do any of that. You just go and utilize the fact that it's already there. All you have to do is like, I want to create a new site. Very easy to do that by clicking just on the new and private site collection, and you continue from there. What I have my demo tenant actually has quite a few sites in here. The benefit of being in Office 365, and if I sound a little bit like a sales pitch, sorry, it's kind of part of the job, I guess. But I truly believe in what I'm presenting, so if I didn't, I wouldn't be able just to come here and do what I do as I'm doing it. But what you can see, there's plenty of websites, and if there is an update, right now they're in version 2013. We just released the 2016. There will be some time before the Office 365 is fully 2016 version for SharePoint or any other product. But you will be able to see which version that website is in here, and then some of them will stay in 2013 until you tell them to upgrade, and if you have it set up to automatically update, that will be done for you. But most of the features come with that. What we have in the portal itself, let's go for that first. We have options for setting info path, or whether you allow users to utilize that or not. So if you ask me the question, is info path going away? Well, not yet. There's another 10 or so years, maybe even 20 of it to actually be there, even though we did say about 5 years ago that it is going away. So I guess that one is being used so much that we can't kill it just yet. But it does not, if you were to look at Office 2016, just the regular Office, like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and all that, InfoPath is not part of that suite. So it's not a new, there's no updates to it. The last one that was, that's where it stays. User profiles, if you work with SharePoint, you know what it is. If you didn't, then I'll tell you. We have, whenever you want to have people come to your websites, you need to verify who they are and allow them permissions to get to that website. The way we do that in SharePoint is with user profile connection to your AD, to where your users live. or there could be a third party. It doesn't have to be a Microsoft AD, but if you're in Office 365, it needs to be able to connect to that Office 365 Azure AD, and then from there, if a person has a license to use SharePoint, their profile is added to SharePoint, so SharePoint can understand it. Yes?
I was seeing an InfoPath tab that was allowing like Googlebot and Slurp and other crawlers. Does that imply that I can publish both internal and external? You know, it used to be people said, you're doing an externally facing SharePoint, that's really stupid. Are you saying, I want to know two things. One is, you know, if I'm staging something, how do I control, you know, who sees it when it's private or new?
Okay.
And how do I put it, and if it's later in your presentation, you can say, we'll get to it later. You know, how do I say, okay, so this, I presume groups control interior, but I was curious, can you present things to the outside from there?
Yes and no. Not necessarily with InfoPath. That is just related to the way InfoPath works. We will get to external sharing and how it can be shared externally. By default, in Office 365, all sites are internal only, and only for people that can get to them that are within your organization and have specifically been given permission to that website. There is a way to allow sharing it outside of your organization, and I'll go through some of those features when a few options down. When it says sharing right here, we'll cover that. Okay, good question. So within here, if you also are wondering about OneDrive for Business and how to set that up, there's a few things in here that are important to that setup. So I will mention it because a lot of people are like, we have Office 365, we have the SharePoint, but we're not ready for OneDrive for Business yet. What OneDrive for Business is a location when, by default, if you have a profile, so you are within the organization, you got your SharePoint, you're allowed to have a website in which you can store your documents that you're working on. So kind of your personal My Documents, but within SharePoint in the cloud instead of on local machines. Some organizations say we don't want that straight away, we want to only have a certain set of people. Start with that. So what I can do is, when you see this, make that a little bit bigger, Manage User Permissions option right here. When I click on that, and I'll do that in, actually, I think if I do Control 4, I can actually click on it. There we go. As soon as I click on that, it tells me permissions to do something. So right now I have everyone except external users that are within my organizations are allowed to create personal sites. That includes the OneDrive for Business, follow people and edit the profiles, as well as use tags and notes. If your organization does not want to do it, they want to do a test pilot for 5 to 10 people, all you have to do, and it's very simple, is just remove that from here and then find 1 or 2 people or a group if you have. I think Alex D is somebody that exists in my, yay. I know my employees apparently. So Alex, and I'm going to allow Alex to create a personal site. The only thing to remember is if that was set up and you had your people come in and they set it up already, it does not delete their My Site. It's only for creating new My Sites. So you have, when you're setting it up, when you're getting to Office 365, make sure that you know, oh, okay, I have to do this first before I have tons of people come and do something, and there's like, well, I didn't want them to use this yet. Yes, there is ways to delete it, but it starts being a hassle, so we might want to do that. Sorry about that. I wasn't supposed to do any of those. So Control 4, go back. I'm going to just ignore this little notification, and I'm going to cancel out of that one. Another thing that is important to know when it comes to OneDrive for Business that could save you, especially if you're starting, is the question about security. What if my people put a lot of stuff in there and I want to check on what they're doing? As an admin, I want to, or if I know that something comes up, I want to be able to monitor what kind of data is being shared. There's a lot of settings here that I'm not going to be covering because you can't change them either way. They're just for Office 365 to know itself. But let's scroll down to the important parts. So I have 2 things in here. My Site Cleanup. When it comes to Office 365, your My Site and OneDrive for Business, if you have the license, you're allowed to roam around, do whatever you want in SharePoint and your My Site. But if you are, or any of your people in your organization are disabled, so their profile is not there anymore, what SharePoint does is goes in, oh, this person doesn't have permissions to have My Site anymore, I'm going to have to take care of that. So what it does, it actually by default, and if you wanted to read that, it's nicely explained right here, but in general what it means is somebody left the company, they don't have their profile anymore, I'm going to assign that website to somebody else, to their manager by default, so the manager can go and maybe take whatever documents that person was working on without necessarily, oh my gosh, I don't know, maybe they had this most important project ever, but they got fired the day before they give it to anybody else. We need to have that data somehow. The My Site Cleanup by default gives the permission to the manager to go there. If there is no manager, you are allowed, as a SharePoint admin, to add a secondary owner of the site, so then it's the manager or that. You can't do it, that is always secondary admin. That is just the way it is. And then you have about 30 days, or 31 to be exact, I think. Keep changing the number. But at least 30 days to, as a manager or that secondary owner, to go in and take care of whatever you need to do with that site before it's fully deleted and all the data is gone.
How does it retrieve? Because you can, create a document and you can be the originator or owner, or you can take a document and modify it. The originator left 5 years ago and everyone's been using it, Or, when you save a file, it could be in your personal directory or directories that you use.
So this specific part only refers to a document that is within their OneDrive for Business, within their My Site, not everywhere in SharePoint.
Which means the permissions are personal to the users.
The owner of that website is the person that you are owner of your own My Site, and if you are leaving, we assign somebody else, so the website has an owner, so it can be used for those 30 days by the manager. If the document has been created on a regular SharePoint site and somebody leaves, that document stays there and it doesn't matter because it is related to a different site. It does not disappear. Does that answer the question?
I guess you could force your people to, hopefully make them the owner of the document, When they generate a Word document, put them as the originator or whatever.
If you
and then find them that way.
The way, that is the tricky one part in there. SharePoint has a very, I would say, simple at the same complicated way of permissions for anything in SharePoint. If you are a site collection administrator, you own the website, you own everything within that website. You don't have to have explicit permissions to a document. So if somebody puts the document in their OneDrive for Business and they leave, the manager becomes the owner of the whole website, becomes an owner of everything, to every little item in a list. So they have access to everything. Does that help understand it? Or?
But they don't have access while you're still working?
Not by default, but there's a way to do that. And I'll mention that in a minute as well, which actually is my next step. How to do that? So if I want to make sure that I have access to it, whether they're leaving or not, just any time as a manager I need to see that. There is an option to do that, or a group, maybe of administrators, or there's something called e-discovery, which is supposed to help with finding the things that you're looking for, such as social security number. Somebody puts that in documents. We want to make sure that that is not being there, so if that comes up, somebody needs to be able to find that. There's a few ways to do that. If you want to do it before the website is created, you can set it up as a My Site secondary admin. So what it does in here is whoever is put in that secondary admin location right here, one more time, or anybody that we would add in here on creation of a OneDrive or My Site with the OneDrive in it, they also are added as that admin. So then there's the main person, you, and your manager is per se. If that's who we add here, would be having access from the beginning. A lot of organizations before, that is actually maybe 2 months of a feature. It used to be that you had to run this PowerShell script that would go and look for all the OneDrives that have been created, and then you could add a secondary admin. There's also a way to do it one by one, but if you have more than 20 people, that becomes troublesome, so there's a PowerShell to script that for you, so it's easy. You just tell us, like, find all OneDrives, and then add this admin to each one of those sites that have been found. So it kind of helps with being able to monitor it. This setup, if it is set up before the My Site works, that's great. If you worked with SharePoint Online and OneDrive and you did not have that set up ahead of time, that's where that PowerShell comes into play, so you can work it. If you're only interested in one person that you want to monitor, spy on, or whatever you want to call that, there is a way. Let me show you that. You can do that by going to Manage User Profiles. When you click on that, and I'm going to do that again for Alex D. And I find Alex right here. I can click on the little arrow. There's a few options. I can manage personal site, Alex's personal site, or I can manage the site collection owners. When I click on that, we see that it's only Alex as primary and secondary. If I want to, KDJ is the user that I'm using currently, so KDJ, you can add her, and now she also is the site collection owner, has access to anything that Alex has been doing in his My Site.
Do the users know who has security to their stuff? I mean, for example, if you right-click, if you know enough, and you go to your home drive, you can look at the security tab and see who the home drive administrator group is.
Yes, if they know enough, that will show. So let's do a demo for that. Control 4. This is a OneDrive for Business. If you want to go there quickly, you can just click on the app launcher and pick the tile for it. It gets to it. This is KDJ's. Also, you can see it's shared only you, and we can only see Katie in here, right? If we were to go to Alex's, which I need to, I just type it in because I don't remember. Okay, 1 second. So now we are in Alex's. Even though I can see his personal things, it still shows only you in this little sharing option, but as soon as I click on only you, it shows the 2 people. So it does show it, and they, as the owner, Alex actually would have a way to get rid of that person, unfortunately. We're still working on how to change that out to always to not be available to be done, but the way SharePoint works, this is just the way it is. But there's always a way to add yourself back, so as a SharePoint admin. Going back to here and going a little faster since we are at 54. Okay. So from a user perspective, what is important for you to know if you're new to it? That any user that comes in and has its profile is allowed to use SharePoint will be able to get a My Site with the OneDrive for Business when they can put their documents. We'll talk about what you can do with them in a minute. And there are some things you can do as the administrator to make sure that the data is put there is being monitored, and you have ways of checking up on your people if you desire to, or have a team of people spy on your people if you need to. There's a few other things in here that we have from a SharePoint admin perspective. What you can do is work with business connectivity data if you wanted to connect to other services or outside. Not going to go into detail too much, but if you have external, I think if you want to connect in premises, it's much more advanced. In here, it's still a little bit in farther out, but if you have any OData, if you wanted to go external content type, maybe through Excel to a SQL database somewhere else in Azure, though it has to be in Azure, you can connect it so that those, let's say you have a SQL data in Azure that is a lot of information that you want to present in your SharePoint, you can use the business connectivity services to do that. Turn Store, a big one. One of my favorite things actually about SharePoint is that it really can be organized. One thing about SharePoint, I like to make a little joke on that one if you never heard, it probably applies not just to SharePoint, but generally, SharePoint is just like a puppy. Why? Because you get a puppy, you love it, you're allowed to do whatever it wants, you don't necessarily train it, you just let it be a puppy. Within a few weeks, if maybe months, if you're lucky, it will become a beast. And it'll be really hard to train, it'll be really hard to readjust its behavior. Same happens to SharePoint and any other technology that is not being put in governance. If you start from the beginning, or if you're somewhere in the middle, but there's ways to get back, just a little harder if you don't start. If you organize it, set up your taxonomy, set up your user profiles the way you want it with the organization, and make sure your data loss prevention is set up, it's going to be so much easier for you in the future than if you didn't set it up and data leaked because people didn't use it correctly, or you were not monitoring that they're putting the wrong stuff out there, and it becomes a problem. It's better to prevent it than get it happen. So make sure your SharePoint stays a puppy that's well trained.
Is there a checklist somewhere that you can?
I actually, from a governance perspective of what you should do with SharePoint, there is a checklist that's been done for SharePoint 2007, but however, it still applies to this day. There's a PDF that I can post in that, whichever site you want me to post to, that I can point out for you. No problem. So why would I want to use taxonomy? There's a few things. It can be used for navigation, but that's not what we're going to cover today. My favorite thing about it is that you can actually just take in and any specific words or organization of documents you want to have, it can be put in here. So let's see what we have. None of this wants to open for me with much. Okay then. But what I can do is say that I have HR department, and within the HR group, I want to say which departments are in there, and then each department maybe have a subdivision, and I can do that in that in the order of hierarchy. There, I fixed myself. So in here, let's see, it does not, for some crazy reason. I'm going to just add myself again because apparently it did not read me as an admin. Might be something with the way I set that up. Save. Another thing with the taxonomy, if you are a multilingual organization, there's ways to create those taxonomies in different languages. So somebody writes red, and then it can also show up in the Spanish or French or any Polish language. Yes, it'd be czerwony for that matter. So let's see, there we go. So in HR, I have benefits, career deployment, job guidelines, and policies. So I could have then go into a SharePoint site in a documents library, and I have documents, and instead of needing to figure out what I'm going to call what and where it really belongs, I can, as I'm adding the document, say this is benefits document. And I don't have to put it in a title. The title could be new document, which a lot of us just leave as it is. But if we tag it with that word benefits in a separate column, later on I can use search to find that by that tag because it is being searchable by the tags itself. So it helps to keep that organization and keep everything collected. I mean, I know we're going, I am speaking fast because there is a lot to talk about. I could talk probably for a month and still not cover everything SharePoint. I'm just trying to give you an overview, and if we want to, we can work it out that once in a while when I'm in town and available, I can come back and give a more details on certain options. But there's a cool thing that I will be able to show you from the tagging option. So instead of needing to have 5 or 10 different libraries, each of different folders. All I have to do is have one library with a lot of documents, but if they're tagged correctly, all I have to do is just filter by that tag, and then instead of having 100 of documents, I have only 30 with the benefits tag, right? Very easily on the spot being able to make changes. There's a lot of cool things you can do with that organization. Records management for you, this is if you wanted to make sure that, let's say after 30 days, it's not really that long. Let's put, after 3 years, your documents should be put and considered a record, meaning nobody is allowed to change them. I want them in a specific location. There's a way to do that automatically in SharePoint. You create a connection and it creates a workflow for you. That's another 2 days of conversation for you. Creates a workflow for you that checks, hey, this document has been in here for 3 years, hasn't been changed in 3 years. I'm going to now move it to this records location and create it so that it's kept as a record but not being changed anymore, because that's our policy. And you don't have to do it on 3 years. It could be every week. It could be whatever your organization needs to do it as. Let's do a few more minutes and then we'll take a break. We have search, how you want to manage your searching, how it's available to look for all these documents, because as soon as you give people permission to put stuff somewhere, it becomes, this, oh my gosh, I have so many things and want to find them somehow. We have ways to utilize search, and there's not just, hey, you type in your typical Bing search there for you. That's the way you're supposed to do. You Bing it on Google, right?
Bing it on Google?
But what we give you in SharePoint is actually more options to make the changes for you, so that way you are able to make it more relevant. If you know that in your organization, when you call something, I don't know, Sprite, since my drink is right here and I couldn't think of a better word, that means they're looking for this project, and everything according to that project or within the site for that project will come up, even though the word Sprite might have no other meaning outside of that one project. So you can create those kind of query rules, and then search results that will up here. So you can get the query rules that created. You look for something with that Sprite word in it, it will create anything, it will find anything for you. Some are created out of the box for you. For example, you type in PPT, which stands for PowerPoint. What it will do, SharePoint will know that you're looking for PowerPoint presentations, not for the word PPT in any of your documents, which will then say, oh, I found these PowerPoint presentations for you. So you can create those type of stuff for yourself. So there are a lot of cool things in there for you. Secure Store is the next part in there, and I know I'm going fast, but I want to make sure I cover everything that I wanted for you to cover today. This allows you to add an external credential. So if you're working with hybrid setup, for example, you have SharePoint on premises and online, they are considered two different entities. So to be able to talk to each other and consider, oh yeah, no, I trust this other SharePoint, you can add the credentials that are being used for that from a using, hey, I'm going to search for things on premises and online at the same time. I need to have the right credentials stored. Secure Store allows you to do that.
So that's essentially a service account, for example.
Yes, service account. It's not every user. It's who is going to be presented or who I'm going to be pretending to be, to spy on people. What? No more spying. It's apps. This could be another few days. What we added in SharePoint and also into any Office product is that you can create apps that are giving enhancement of functionality to what already is available. If you want your organization, you can set up an app catalog. If you're a developer, create apps for your organization to utilize what's going on in SharePoint. Or you can purchase apps that have already been available. And this all in here allows you to do that setup. There hasn't been any changes, so I'm not going to cover too much on it just this week, maybe future. But a good thing to know is, let's say I have this website and I wanted to create this meeting that connects to whatever's going on in Yammer. I can have an app that presents what's going on in Yammer. If you're not using, I don't know if there's one for Meetup, for example, but if there was, you could say, oh, I have this website, but I can also take the data from another location and present it on my SharePoint site together. So those are kind of the type of apps. There's a lot of apps that are available. Some of them are actually free. The community just shares those, and you can test them out and see what you like. Surveys are a big ones that some people don't like SharePoint surveys. They want to have an external survey. You can take an app from a third party that utilizes a different type of surveys that can be utilized within SharePoint. And the good part is you don't have to go and change the code from a if anybody ever tried to work with SharePoint development, you know that it's really easy to break stuff when you touch code. I guess that's in any technology, honestly, especially if you don't know what you're doing. In here, you don't have to know what you're doing because you're not touching the code. The app's code or SharePoint code is behind the scenes. All you do is just taking the file. It's kind of like putting apps on your phone, no matter what type of phone you have. It doesn't have to be a Windows phone. I'm going to continue going. But I hope you get the idea. Getting to the sharing option. So when I am in, this is how you set that up. But when I'm in my OneDrive for Business, and I'm going to go to Katie's instead of Alex's, I have the option to just select a document and click on the Share button. When I have the Share, I can type in an internal person, so for example, Alex D, and it's going to find somebody. But I could also type in my personal email address, and if I select that, it's going to tell me, hey, this person is outside of your organization. Right now, my OneDrive for Business is set up to allow external sharing, meaning I can send that link to anybody outside of the organization. And then I have a few other options. I could say require sign-in, so they need to verify their credentials. But if I wanted to, honestly, I could just do get a link. Those are two kind of interesting things, because with the edit link and no sign-in required means I could share a document from here with any of you right now, and you could just log in without needing to have credentials to be able to open that document. It's not a whole website, just that document that I'm sharing with you. So what we try to do is make sure to make those functionalities as secure as possible. So that's what the next feature in here in the SharePoint Admin Center was. So right now, in SharePoint, I'm allowing to share to authenticated external users and using anonymous access link. That would be that link that I just showed you. If And if I decided to allow users to invite and share with authenticated external users, meaning I would not be able to just send the guest link. And I could also say don't allow it at all. If I select any of the allow, it allows me to also say I only want to say that external people that are coming to my organization have to be from this domain. So if they're logging in, they have to have the at live.com or at Contoso or Fabricant or whatever other company it is, has to match that credentials, then they can actually accept it. Meaning it wouldn't allow anybody to just use that invitation, log in with any type of email. They have to be verified. And there also been something for a little bit, and we fixed that, fortunately, that external users must accept sharing invitation using the same account that the invitation was sent to. Why? Because there was a point just at the beginning when you could send an invitation to somebody and somebody could forward that invitation to somebody else, and it wouldn't verify that it is the same person or not. You can set that up now for sure. With setting that up, it will verify that the email address the person is logging in to it is the same.
That's sharing one file. What if you wanted to share a folder to an external user?
No, so the anonymous guest link is only for files, but you can share the whole website if you wanted to, or the whole folder, or the whole, and any, within SharePoint site, you can share the whole website, and then within the website, any entity you can share on that level. The only thing that allows the anonymous guest link without sign-in is a file itself. You can't share the whole website, but everything else is allowed to share with invitation.
Would you?
Yes?
This maybe silly question, but let's say you want to have signature logos for your emails.
Yes?
And you want to have it as a reference to a file, so that when people look their emails, if it falls to that file, loads it up. Would you recommend that people don't do that with SharePoint? You can have that link in there. You need to have security risk or anything like that for people to have that that web address and that path to that share folder.
Would that be just to internal users to use it, or you don't want it to go externally?
To any email that you email anybody. Like, say you have an organization logo that you want people to use in their emails.
Mm-hmm.
So you share a folder in SharePoint.
You can.
But you don't have anything else to share, right?
Yeah, you can absolutely do that. If you would like not to have that shared externally, you just internal, then you just set it up so that it's not allowed to share it externally. By default, sites are set up not to share externally.
But you can set it up to share externally.
You can if you wanted to, yeah, and you would set that up on the website level, which I will show you in a minute. Well, recommendation from that perspective is it all depends on the policies within your organization, right? If it is okay, if you don't mind that being shared out and people can come and go and take it as needed, then that's okay. Because you can limit the sharing to just that file and they don't see anything else, right? So even if there was a lot of other documents in the same library, but you only shared that one document, they will only see that one document. So whether that's a recommendation to do it or not, it all depends on the policies, would be my answer. One thing to know in here, in where we are right now, is setting this up does not set it up for every website. It's just telling that it is a possibility to be set up, not that everybody will automatically, every website is going to be shared externally. So if we wanted to, I'm going to keep it as it was, change the sharing for my site so I don't allow external sharing at all. So right now I had that option. If I go here and go to site collections, and I know this was for my sites, I select this website on the bottom right here. F4. Select that website, and what I do now, I go all the way in here, click on sharing. It has that set up, so I'm going to say do not allow outside. Save. And yes, I am aware that if I shared anything, it's going to stop working. And give it a few minutes to finish. And like this. If everything went right, I go in here and try to do sharing. Still not able to share internally, but I should not be. So why does it have the get a link option? As you can see, maybe, let me make it bigger. It does allow me to give somebody a link, but what else does it tell me? That the Contoso account is required. Why Contoso? Because my organization, my demo account is Contoso. If it was Signature Consulting, it would say only within Signature Consulting I'm allowed to give somebody access to it. So now, only people that are within your organization, because I just told it don't allow external sharing. So within a few minutes, I just stopped all that from happening, right? Very easy to change that. And what I'm going to do over the break, because we're going to take a break in just a few minutes, I'm going to actually set up an external sharing for a document, and I'll post a link for those that have a laptop and want to see if you can get to it with just the link that I give you. If it works, it's actually a lot of fun. We can do that. But we are at 13 past. I was going to keep you till 15, but I'll give you 2 extra minutes for the break. Because I know I talk a lot, and I know there's a question.
Yeah, is that security setting, is that per SharePoint instance, or is that per SharePoint site?
Per SharePoint site. So you set it up what level of external sharing you want to allow, and that is on the site. And then within the site, you still have to go and decide whether you're sharing the whole site or anything within specifically.
So you have multiple sites, and you set those settings per each site. Okay.
Yes.
You can copy sites. Can't you set up one and then duplicate it? So that you can.
Sorry, it's telling me to do a break. Yes, one more time.
Sorry, you can set up one site and duplicate it, can't you? So you don't have to set it all up again.
From a website to a website?
Yeah. Can't you duplicate?
There's ways to duplicate, yes, but I would have to probably see the scenario that you're trying to go with.
So you get it set up the way you like it, you don't have to develop just like it.
Yeah, the site templates. There's ways to do that, yes.
If you have some time later, ShareFile and Sway, maybe you can address those.
Sure, we could try to get there too, but we do have more time. It's just that we were supposed to do a break at 7:15, so. Externally with no authentication required. If you have a mobile device with internet, anything that gets to internet, you can try to get to this location.
My battery on my phone.
And I'm going to keep it up for a little bit and start editing. And anybody gets, they're going to give me at least one hand up, and I'll show you what happens and how easy it was for me to do that.
Is that good or bad?
Depends what you want, right? If that was your intent, that's a very good thing. A few people are trying a little bit. Shared an Excel file.
Is that 10, 1-0?
Looks
like it, right?
O.
That's an O.
Capital
Zero would be better.
Yeah, kind of more like the one right.
WJ.
That's that
So
fun.
it's
That's
one-
that funny font that they have.
1-O-W, capital J, capital V, S.
Bitly
capital
doesn't care about caps, does it?
No.
Yes, it does.
Are you serious?
Yep. It's a hash.
Bizutador.
Anybody in yet?
Now
I am.
I've got to do it in caps.
Okay. Can type something in there. Anybody else trying to get there? We're good,
I
we're
am,
good?
just a minute.
Just a minute. Okay.
I didn't know that about Bitly links. Of course, I've never actually typed one.
Yeah, I don't mean to copy paste, but I don't really have you guys all on link. Oh, I'm sorry, Skype for Business. So, we're good?
Something's wrong here. Bitly couldn't find your crappy typing.
I am there.
Okay, well, you can keep trying. Is that a whiteboard thingy? Right here?
WJVSD.
I'll type that in, maybe I won't break this one up. Nah, I feel like I'm going to leave a mark forever. But for those that were able to do it, if you come in here, there you go. Some of you are already working on it. If you click on edit, as you can see, somebody just typed in hello, and it tells me that I have guest editing. I have one person that is editing. If you're there and you're not able to edit, just make sure you click on edit, and we'll see more people being able to edit. Who is typing?
That's really bold. Just letting anybody edit that with anything they want.
Well,
It's a
that's
good crowd. You got hello. It could have been
Yes,
much worse.
yes, it could be much worse. A lot of times we get some fun things in there. I teach one class that I have about 30, 40 people in that class, and if we do that, it's just crazy. It goes all different colors in there, especially because they can just click on the link and it gets them there. Oh, there, over here, over there. So very easy to share. This can be done within SharePoint in general. It doesn't have to be OneDrive for Business. Whether it's internal or external, you are able to collaborate with other people in a lifetime situation. This just allows me to share it externally with anybody with that link. It can be done with Word, PowerPoint, Excel, as well as OneNote. If you haven't ever used OneNote, that is something that you should start using, like right now. OneNote is the best thing. I love OneNote for organization of any documents, any things like writing and
Notes,
and instead of doing favorites for my any of the files that I want to come back to, I just keep saving everything to my OneNote so I can come back to it later, because even screenshots are being you can search words in your screenshot, so it's a lot of fun. But I'm not talking about OneNote today, so can I move on? So what I want to go on with is, you see they're very easy to share. If I were to now say, you know what, all you guys, I don't want you in there anymore, I can come in here and just remove this link, and it will remove the sharing option. You wouldn't be able to get there anymore. I'm going to leave it for a little bit more if needed, and you also have the opportunity to set when it's going to expire. So if I want it to expire tomorrow, I could set one day or a different day. So sometimes you might be working on, I created this PowerPoint with a few slides for people. I want to see that externally for whoever I send it to, and the link should go out. But after 30 days, I don't want that to be available anymore, so it will expire automatically. It's also a fairly new feature, instead of you needing to remember to go back and take away from that. So what would a typical SharePoint website that is done nicely, I'm going to have to show you one of a Contoso website, typical website, and a similar functionality for that, if it goes there. Thank you very much. So it doesn't have to be this bland website that you have there. It can actually be pretty colorful, full of cool things. So if you have Yammer, I was going to say YouTube, but that's not YouTube, that's Yammer. Starts with a Y though. You can see any of the conversations going on from Yammer. This is just a web part of the website that you can add something to SharePoint. We're not going to go into details of how to make this, but you can see that the functionality, this is all just SharePoint later with the apps that are available and web parts that are available internally to SharePoint, or playing a video, can embed a video very easily and just play that. Have a whole carousel of different videos, little charts and things like that for you. So you can have it as nicely, or if you are more into playing things, you can also have that, which probably would be my beta maybe. Played with some of them and not with others, so working on it, very typical website looks that. So there's a big difference between this and this look, so SharePoint doesn't have to stay playing. That's a whole different story and how you get your dev to look that nice, but it's actually not as hard as it seems. But I'm not going to go into that, unfortunately, today because we don't have enough time. But want to encourage you to strive for a beautiful website in SharePoint, because it actually does encourage people to come back to and utilize it. Let's go back to OneDrive for Business, because there's a lot of things that are going on in there. So a few things that has changed recently is this, the way it looks. There was a different look and feel. You have the possibility of drag and drop, and that has been there, but also has been improved, and now you can use it not just in IE. It works in Chrome, it works in Edge, and I believe also in Firefox without a problem. I just drag and drop it, and it is being uploaded here very easily.
Can you map a drive?
Map a drive? What do you mean?
Drive letter?
For this?
For OneDrive?
Yes,
For my OneDrive part?
yes and no.
Still?
It all depends how you want to, what you want to do. But the thing that changed, which I'm going to click on next, is the sync option. So there's a new way to sync. You can have there's a new client. So what it was, we had two different clients. One was for personal OneDrive, which you can get with Live, Hotmail, or we call it these days Outlook.com account. And you could have the OneDrive for Business, which is related to SharePoint. And we had two different sync clients. One at some point was allowing you to choose folders and choose what files you want to, which the one for OneDrive for Business did not. You had to sync everything or nothing, pretty much. Use it or not. Well, that has changed, so now I'm going to not click on this just yet, but how it changed is that even though I have this little OneDrive option for here, when I click on that, it will hopefully try to log me in, and it looks very similar. Hey, set up your OneDrive, but I am KDJ from Contoso.world, or whatever it's called, so I'm going to KDJ at, actually have to remind, sorry, I don't remember the full name, so give me 1 second. I'm just going to copy this for myself. Let's do that one more time. OneDrive, change those for bots. And when I click sign it in old clients, you wouldn't be able to connect to your Office 365 and OneDrive for Business, but with the new client, you actually is going to verify who that person is. It's going to understand its Office 365 account. And I'm going to add password in here. And it's not password, but it's password.
Sure.
It's a combination of stuff. Going to sign in. It's not working on it, it's signing in. Actually, the little, for those that work with SharePoint, I'm sure 2014 you've seen the little working on it all the time. I was at one of the conferences and they actually had the t-shirts. It's my favorite t-shirt to go to the gym in. Not that I go to the gym, but if I were to go to the gym, I'd be a little working on it. So it's a pretty cool shirt. This is being a little long. We'll give it to Think, and as soon as that signs in, I'm going to be able to choose the folders. While it's thinking about it, let me show you something else. I'm going to be a little impatient here for the sake of the time. Another thing that we were able to do in SharePoint for a while is to favorite or kind of follow websites so that you can get to them fairly fast afterwards. Was there a question?
No.
Okay. And you can click on the sites, and there's a new way to, oh, one more time. Thought I clicked on sites? Maybe I didn't. There you go. So-called old look and feel of the websites, and you have all the sites that you are following and the ones that have been provided to you by your SharePoint admin, saying these are the most important. You always need to go to Power BI because it's very, very important. But there's a new look and feel, and this is not released to all. My test tenant didn't get it yet, but our internal tenant at Microsoft did. So you're looking at our internal SharePoint at Microsoft, which we also use Office 365 for. So instead of sites, you actually have just a SharePoint button now, and this is the new look and feel. Just refresh it a little bit. And it has your frequent websites. Yet same concept. You follow a website, you favorite a website, it shows to you, but instead of just being a really long list, it actually keeps remembering which was the one that you opened last. So it gets you to that website instead of going through 100 of them. It's like, hey, this is the one that you used yesterday. I'm going to bring it up to the top for you. So that's kind of a new thing that's coming out right now. Some of the tenants already have it, some of them don't. All of the sites, if they're not listed in here, you can see all of the sites in here. And then the links from your organization now are on the side. They're not those big bold ones anymore on the top. But here or right there, suggested maybe my coworkers are on those websites, or teammates, or I don't know, it's a very popular website these days. So they also show up in here. So I could add it as being my favorite website if I wanted to. So that's a big change that's coming up. Another thing, but unfortunately it is already in my test tenants, is when I go to OneDrive for Business, we talked about search and being able to find things. We have there's two things. One is Delve, and one is called Discover. Discover is a new thing which kind of is like, hey, check out what's trending, what's going on. So if one thing that people are pretty afraid when it comes to Delve or this Discover part is that, oh my gosh, everybody's going to be able to see everything that's going on. The only things that show up in those locations, and anything in SharePoint in general, you can only see the things that have been shared with you. If you didn't get explicit permissions to the website, to a document, you won't see this under this Discover tab or Delve tab. You have to have permissions to it. So some people say, but all these people are seeing all these things. It's like, yeah, you probably didn't do the permissions the right way. That's why it's coming out. So that what kind of goes both ways. One, hey, you know that your permission-wise are not set up correctly, and you need to learn that or teach your organization how to do it correctly. Or that, yeah, that's pretty much it. You got to teach people to do it right. But it helps you to see that, and if needed, to take it fast. One thing that we helped, and if you used OneDrive for Business before, out of the box, they used to create this folder called Shared with Everyone, and it was shared with everyone within your organization. And people would put documents in there not realizing that it's shared with everyone.
Which part of shared with everyone did you
I'm not really sure how that happened, but there have been a lot of feedback that has been confusing to people. So what we've changed in the recent updates, maybe 2 to 3 months ago, we took away that folder altogether. When there's a new my site created with OneDrive, that folder is not there. You have to create that folder, and if you want, you are still allowed to share it with anybody you want, but we don't provide it out of the box to take away the confusion of what shared with everyone means. I know, I'm making fun of it, but for somebody that is a typical end user, joking around about the end users that are not as familiar with things, might not necessarily understand exactly explicitly that everyone means anybody in the organization. Things that are also pretty cool within OneDrive, you can see what has been shared with you, so not just what is discovered, what is trending, what's been popular, what a lot of people are going to, that you have access to, but something that maybe Alex or Rob or Robin decided, you know what, I want to specifically share this one file with this other person, so now it shows in here so I am able to find them fast instead of looking for that email that told me that somebody shared something with me. I have it here. If you delete stuff, obviously the typical thing, you can look into the recycle bin. If it's here, you can restore it. That's within the 90 days. There's also a second stage recycle bin, meaning if you delete it once, it's my favorite thing to do, so I'm going to actually do that because it's like you have to not read again. You select that and you decide, you know what, delete it from here or delete from here. I click delete. Yes, I'm sure I want to delete. Oh no, it's gone. I go to recycle bin and I see it here and I select it, and instead of restoring, I'm going to click on delete selection. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes. Wait, no, that's not what I meant to do. You still have a chance. Give you 2 chances here, and you go to the second stage or secondary recycle bin, and you can restore it from here. But if it's gone from the secondary one, then it's gone. So you only get 2 chances. Sorry. So if you click OK, it's going to come back to where it was. If it is, it doesn't matter whether it's the first or second stage recycle bin. It has 90 days from when it was deleted to disappear as well. We only keep those deleted files for 90 days. We don't keep, if you want to keep something secure, don't keep it in your recycle bin. Because I've heard of that happening.
Especially male users.
Yes, that happens very easily to disappear. Another thing that has been added, and I said I'm going to mention on that one, is the Office 365 groups. What happens is we have this, for example, online marketing, because online marketing is very important. There's a group on that one. When I click on that, what it gets me to is, and this is also going to be updated, the look and feel is going to be more of a called modern websites, when it's going to have, hey, these are the last activities, files that have been worked on, and kind of news of what has been written. Right now it's just the documents that you can see in here. All these documents are, let's say, you create how it normally, our workflow used to be, or it still is, unless you start using and utilizing all the SharePoint features as they are being given to you, is that we would have a distribution group and talk to people within the distribution group, send emails back and forth, and then you're like 3 months later, like, where was this document that somebody shared? Which version is the last version? And you just
Which
go
SharePoint
around.
portal is it on?
Yes, hundreds of emails and with hundreds of attachments, huge emails. Oh, it's too big of a file. I can't add it, but I need to have the latest version. Who has the latest version? You go back and forth. So what we try to do with the Office 365 groups is create a centralized location for all that group situation. So you have your files in one place, but if I come here, you see conversations and calendar. I'm going to start with conversation. When I click on that, let's go make it a little bit bigger. Well, you can see it goes to Outlook. There has been something called SharePoint Mailbox at some point, or something along those lines. I don't remember the exact name anymore. We kind of script that, said no, scratch that it wasn't really working what we wanted to do. Instead, we got these groups. So what's going on in here, instead of having to go, and it shows up the same way in Outlook too, under a group location, instead of going around and looking, hey, I need to set up this, rule to get all these emails from this distribution group to go to this group, it actually keeps it on its kind of sort of own inbox. And you can just go through and see, hey, these are all the things that are going on. To add more to that one all the time is like, when are we meeting? What is our calendar? You can actually have the calendar. The one in blue is my personal, per se, KDJ's personal. And then you can have the online marketing one. That means that the DL, the group itself, is getting its own calendar. So now you don't have to keep sharing with is everybody in the DL got the invitation? You just have it in the calendar of the group itself, and then if you're part of that group, you are able to subscribe to it per se. You have the notebook, and which is the OneNote for you if you wanted to keep notes from your any of the meetings. One thing that is really nice, if you haven't used it before with OneNote and you want to make notes from a meeting, if you open OneNote and say, hey, give me the meeting information, it actually brings up everybody that has joined this Skype for Business meeting. And even if they didn't join at the moment that you created it, it's going to keep adding the people into the list because it is connected. It works really close. So that way you have your agenda, you have your people that said they're going to come in and showed up. You can verify that, and it just keeps the attendance for you, so you don't have to now type every name. You don't even need to know who comes in because it does it for you. And of course, going back to our files, you have the files here. So now instead of needing to forward the files, you keep it in the SharePoint where they should be when you can collaborate on them. They're in one location, easy to find, but you have your email for the conversations because seems like email's not going away anytime soon. We're still able to have that going on. And if you want to even get more email, I don't like to do these things because I have way too much email. See how many I have. It's like, don't email me. It's like, Kevin knows. It's like, I think he had to call me finally to get me to figure out, because I don't check my email very often. Because, well, no, I check it every day, but it's so much that I skip a lot of things. So don't feel offended if you ever try to email me. It's just nobody gets to me through email. Sorry. So you can set up an alert for yourself and say, hey, if anything changes in this specific DL, or that can actually be set up on any library and OneDrive library in SharePoint, that, hey, anything changes, anything goes on in here, I want to be sent a notification, whether it's daily, weekly, or immediately. I would not set that up if you have a team that actually likes to work on those things, because if they do, then you're going to get hundreds of emails for every little change that happens. But if you want to kind of get a weekly summary of what happened in the last week within this group or within this library, whether it's of this library or any other library in SharePoint, you can set up alerts like that.
So is all changes, what level of change is that? If I change, 3 paragraphs in a single document, do you get Alan was editing the document, or Alan edited, thee to that, and Bob to Mary and whatever?
I know they were updating the way the alerts are being done, but I think it's that something has changed, and go and check out. It might provide you with the change that you made, but I don't remember on top of my head right now. I would have to double check, so I don't know. That's my answer to that one. But it for sure lets you know that something happened and gives you, hey, I think if I remember correctly that it goes, hey, this document been changed, go and check it out, and it gives you that option. And it doesn't do every little letter that has changed, right? It wouldn't send you an email for every letter. It's pretty much you worked on it and then you saved it, and the automation saving is a little different, but like if you finished and closed, then it knows to send out the email. Going forward, how much time? We got a few more minutes. Hey, there we go. It finally did this. So this is your OneDrive folder, and this is, remember it was signing in, taking, it was going on a walk or something, I forgot we were here. Your OneDrive Contoso, so it adds the name of your organization, and it's going to be stored in this location. If you want to put it to a different location, that's fine. I'm going to keep it as is, click Next, and now it gives me the option to select
Which one?
the folders. You can tick all of it, or say, you know what, I want to only select, I don't want the class, that's not important, Contoso is not important. The only thing that's important to me is private info and the files that are not in any folder. You cannot select it per file, it's the folder, or files in the folder, so you can't just say, oh, I want files in the folder, but not the folder, obviously. And you can't just select the folder with no files in it.
Okay, so when is a file not in a folder? I mean, where I come from, folder meant directory, and it's always in one of those.
So these files not in a folder means that you have not in a subfolder, put it that way. You have your main Contoso or OneDrive-Contoso, that is your main folder that's being created.
Right.
And you could add files to that folder without giving
So
it
those are files in the
subfolders.
root.
Yes, root is the right word to use,
Okay.
yes. So I'm going to click yes, next, and then open my Contoso magically. Dum, 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 and, well, that is actually pretty fast. Look, I got all the documents in here, even the book that I shared with you guys. Oh, look, it's already here. Close it out, and in the folders as well in here. She's doing her grocery list after work, at work. I don't know if I'm going to beat her anymore. Fired for that. Just kidding. So one thing to remember is it is being synced, so if I make changes in here, it's going to change it in the OneDrive for Business Online pretty much within seconds. So if I wanted to change, for example, rename this, small business sales to rate, I do that, and it already has the small change, so pretty fast, or maybe the internet here is just amazing, who knows why it's so fast. I'm going to go back to my OneDrive, and I think it was this document, so let's just do a refresh. Sometimes it might need to take a, yep, there it goes. I don't remember how long it is, but the website itself does the refresh on its own every so often. We just didn't wait long enough, but it's already in here. Another thing to know with OneDrive for Business, or OneDrive for that matter, that if I were to select a bunch of documents and click delete, they are going to be deleted from here as well. Let's refresh that. They're not here. So, or they are here. Which ones did I delete? No?
The ones in your recycle bin.
Yeah, the book should have disappeared, so it didn't update that yet. Weird. Maybe I didn't. Maybe selected something else. Maybe somebody's using that document, that's why I didn't delete it. So what you can see, they're all here. Even though I deleted them in my local folder, right? I deleted it from here, from the typical location. It did put them in the recycle bin in SharePoint. That is, yes?
Do those go to the local recycle bin as well?
I believe they do. Let's double check. That's, they do go in here as well. So there are two places, but the good news is that it does show up in your SharePoint recycle bin more than that it does on the local one, because that means even if you were on some kiosk and you, unfortunately, somehow you were able to sync it up, even though there's ways to do it, but if you did it in kiosk and then it cleared it out, or you have one of those machines that clear out after every restart, and you deleted something that you didn't mean to, you can't get it back from a local place, but you always have that in that recycle bin in SharePoint as long as it's within the 90 days of the deletion. Yes?
So what happens if two people are using the same install file at one time? You both have them open.
Mm-hmm.
Can you both make changes at the same time?
Yes.
And then what happens? I mean,
One's going Bob, one's going Mary, one's going Bob, one's going
Oh,
Mary.
well, you can only change, you can edit the same document, but you can't edit the same cell at the same time. It locks the cell for the person that is in the cell.
And it warns you as you're going in.
Yeah, it tells you. So, what I mean by cell is if so somebody finished it over here. Right now, it's after that. So let's do edit workbook in the browser. So now that it's finished, I would be able to, type something over it. But if there was somebody else, this is taken, I wouldn't be able to write over what they've done. It happens the same way in Outlook, Word and PowerPoint. It blocks that paragraph there. You can it looks like you're writing in the same spot, but it actually keeps kind of a cached information of who's writing what, and then after you click save or refresh or enter, it posts that, but it doesn't overwrite what the other person did.
What is it? I mean, that's if you're using the online, the web client. what if you're using a standalone and you're using a local copy? I mean, it's two different people on two different machines, or
Yeah, you could.
editing the same
So
document.
with Excel, it actually locks it. You can only do collaboration within the browser in Excel to edit together. But with Word, one can be in the cloud and one can be in local version, and it still will have that locking mechanism in there. We could try that with the Bitly one more time. I'm happy to.
I mean, even if, yes, I would have to say then, if you're sharing a folder with people, that folder, will it replicate on their hard drives, on their individual machines, or will it only be available through the servers or the cloud?
If they are syncing it with the OneDrive sync client, then it kind of creates it's not necessarily a replication, it's not a new file, but it is, because it's almost like a separate file, but at the same time when you're clicking on making changes to it, I consider it almost as a placeholder. Yes, it's there, it's fully there, but when you're making changes, it saves those changes to the cloud straight away. It doesn't just do it on the local. If you're offline, it makes the changes offline, it saves them in the cache kind of setup, and as soon as you get online, it pushes those changes out to the cloud.
Have you ever had a situation where two people were offline working on the same file, and they went to upload their changes, and they were...
Yeah, so it has that little mechanism, tells you, hey, somebody else make changes, do you want to update or see what those changes were as soon as that happens, and then you can decide whether you want to get those changes or not.
I mean, there's nothing you can do about that if it happens. I mean,
Yeah, but there is a way to see both of those changes happening, because the chances of it being exactly on the same split second are very, I don't believe that would actually happen. So you would have both versions still in the version of the file.
I think the solution would probably be to...
There is a way to check it out and say, I'm going to just use that by myself and nobody else is able to collaborate with me at the same time.
I would think there would also be a way to say, you can't replicate this folder on your drive, and if you want to edit it, you're just going to have to use it from the server. No? In other words, say, this file
not allowed
cannot
to
be-
sync.
You're not allowed to sync this folder.
There's ways to stop from syncing, yeah.
Or what's the word when you lock a file so nobody else can use it because you're
Yeah, so that to lock the file, and see, you can select the file and then, oh gosh, by default it has the version history, so you're always able to see that. Did they take that out? There was a checkout option before.
kind of a firm believer in Murphy's Law.
See,
Sometimes
let me.
Nietzsche had the two together. It's disaster.
Within the OneDrive, they changed it out, but let me see in the regular documents library if it's still there. It's one thing that I love about Office 365 and teaching it. It's like, oh, it was there yesterday, I swear. There you go. So when you are, I selected a file within the library. This is just a regular SharePoint library, not the OneDrive for Business. And I have the edit document option or a checkout. If you do the checkout, it's checked out to the person that's working on it, and nobody else is able to come in and make any changes. So if you're afraid of that overriding, but there is there's ways to do it, even if you're both editing at the same time, that it's not going to override you because you have that versioning. So as soon as even something gets overwritten, you can always go back to the previous version and get that part back. But you have I know they're changing stuff up, and some things are hidden in different locations, and it's a scavenger hunt these days. But there is an option to check out in general within SharePoint.
So if you check something out and change it and save it, do you have to remember then to check it back in?
Yes.
Otherwise, everybody's locked out of that file.
When you save it, it prompts you.
Yeah, it asks you if you want to check it in.
Oh, so you don't have to go up and remember. to
Not
do
every
that.
time. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that, yes. But you have to check it in, yes. It's something that you have to do. If you leave it out without the check-in, then nobody else can touch it.
But it says checked out by your name and your teammate.
Yeah, they should know who
Bruce
to contact.
Rocksack.
Okay.
And then the admin of the site also has the way to check it in, but it doesn't save the changes you made. It just, it's like somebody left the company and had something checked out. You can be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to force check in that file, discarding the changes because you don't have the changes saved for everybody.
Can you do an Explorer view in online, on SharePoint Online from the library tab?
Yeah, well, this one's disabled here. But the new look and feel takes that functionality away.
Huh?
That is another new thing. And in OneDrive for Business itself, it doesn't have that function. It just the recommendation currently is to use the same client to have the like File Explorer functionality. And we don't need to get into the conversation about that because we don't have a few hours left to have that. But just one thing with that I wanted to see in here mentioned to you. Remember how I said, hey, you know, you can apply some filters on the tags and whatnot. That's kind of what it goes in here. It doesn't have the tag of the HR, but it has the rating, or it has, this one is actually set up to say when it was modified. So right now I have tons of documents, more than 30 on one page, and I'm saying, you know what, I want it modified on after, well, they're all the same date, so it's not going to matter. So let's do this. Make the change. Edit in browser. See, very good. Good example. I have it set up in this library that says unless you check out this document, you can't edit it, meaning I'm only allowing one person at a time. I'm not wanting the collaboration, per se, at the same time to happen. So it warns me. So I can open the open and reading view, or I can look here, or check it out first. Get away from here. Go back one. I'm going to check out that document really fast. Check it out. And I can go and edit it in the browser. I'm going to make a change. That it's saved already. Perfect. This one did not ask me, but that's because it is the way to check it in. I want all my changes to save. I just want a different date to show you that modification. And I'm doing it on a modified on date, but if you had those taxonomy added, the term store that I mentioned before, and would say, you know, English and Spanish and whatever language this is written in or which department it belongs to, you could do the same thing depending on the column you added. So modified on, and I'm going to say today, which day? 16, okay. If I click apply, the filter, it's going to filter it all. I mean, there's only one document, but if, you know, normally you don't have all the documents created on the same day, unless you do a demo like I'm doing, but instead of looking through 30 documents, now I found the one that I wanted on the specific date, right? So same can be, I'm looking for all the English documents, I'm looking for all from the HR department, or from Contoso building, whatever it would be.
So is it using an indexing server on the back end for
it does
full
index
text
it.
queries?
Yeah, some of them. Yes, you know, depends how you look at it. But yes, indexing is part of it. Okay, going. So many questions. Yes.
Yeah. So I think you kind of hinted at it a minute ago, like the Explore, edit or Explore view. I used to always, like, let's say I have like a folder on my hard drive, my laptop and I want to go ahead and push it up to SharePoint, I use that Explorer view. But how else do you move over like a whole folder without syncing? I don't necessarily want to sync it.
I understand.
I just want like a snapshot and move it up.
So it's recording, right? What can I tell you?
It's just too much to like go file.
I understand. So there's few things that I don't think it's available in all the browsers yet.
Okay.
But we'll check. I know that you can. Let's go to a different location. So we have a typical library, right? Let's just click on library, make sure I am in a documents library. And this is in my OneDrive, but it's considered a local, right? It's the file share, so I could select all of that and drag and drop it here straight away. You can do that with any browser. I think folders currently, unfortunately, only work, well, unfortunately for Microsoft, but they only work in Chrome at the moment. It's being fixed to work everywhere, but it is all about the type of tags, HTML5 and CSS tags that are being used, that it works for. So
that will also pull over subfolders too then?
Excuse me, yes, if it is in the folders,
okay.
then it will. But currently, it's Chrome, so you would have to use Chrome, and it tells me that we're almost out of time. And it even asks me, hey, I found the same one. Do you want to replace it or not upload? I'm going to say not upload. So it's adding all of them, but it's only adding the files, not the folders. So it hasn't been fixed yet for that. But Chrome does it for sure. So if you have that and you want to move it faster and it does not have that Explorer option anymore, you utilize Chrome functionalities.
Okay, great.
I didn't say that.
But when you do it, you didn't get a date prompt, right? You didn't get a file compare prompt like you do with the operating system. It didn't say this file is newer than the other one. Which one do you want to keep?
No, it just said that it was the same name. So it asked me whether I wanted to do that. So no, it doesn't. It's something very. It would be smart to have that in there, but it does not have that today. Or maybe it was exactly the same date. I don't know, because they're all created on April 27th. And as you can see, because this library was set up to check out, so you have to do certain things before it's checked in. All the new documents are checked out of the box. And there's ways to quickly check them all in and all that kind of stuff. But we're getting close to end of the time. About 3 minutes, so I promised some question time. So any questions? I see some hands going up. Yep.
I have a GoDaddy account which has Office 365 and ShareFile and Sway. And Sway is supposed to be a...
Sway, yes, you asked me about that.
I did a Sway document to share with people and I couldn't figure out how to share it. Because that's the purpose of Sway, I guess, or something like that.
The purpose is not to be able to share.
No, to share. And, but it appears that that's exactly what it is.
Is it part of your Office 365 subscription, or was it just a personal file?
No, it's part of the subscription, so it's not Microsoft.
Okay, because this was kind of like a thing that I've made before for myself.
Oh, there's a share.
And there is a share button here. I don't know, has Twitter, Facebook. This probably is just share a link, so you can just give them a link to that location. But we wanted to see that in the Office 365, right? Does it have Sway here?
Down there, yeah.
I guess it's going back to those ways. So it'd be the same thing.
So what is Sway different from? How is it different from all other nights?
Good question.
Different from what?
Everything else.
So Sway is
how is a Sway document different from a shared PowerPoint
or
Excel?
It's supposed to be kind of a different way of doing presentations and more
integrated,
more Sway.
Suave.
fluid kind of type of a presentation. So you create your text, your headings, kind of this is what's going to show up on there, and it's just my story of my life, I guess, in here. And I can do later say, hey, I want to show that to people instead of doing the PowerPoint, typical very still PowerPoint. You have the. I haven't used it in so long. Oh, play, there it is. So I can do this, and I called myself a war traveler because I started in Poland and I'm here, and it's like 5 different countries in between. So instead of just doing that, I can.
You count Minnesota as a country?
Asia counts as a country. So you go, I moved from Lublin, Poland to London, UK, and I did a little, hey, this is where I went. And at the time in London, I actually was a nanny and did some, people thought I was pretty, I guess, so they painted me. That was a side job, I don't know. But I was a nanny to this wonderful girl kind of thing. So it has that kind of full functionality of, more interactive. And then, hey, moved to Duluth, Minnesota from London all the way here. And this is my typical day.
Weather just like Luton.
So, you go to college in this place and people feel like, how come you guys all do so well? It's like, there's nothing else to do, this or drinking. And, studying, drinking, kind of, whatever.
And the weather reminded you of home?
Well, actually, Poland only gets 3 months of winter, so it's not as bad. This is about 9 months of winter. But and I joke around because I used to, when I got there about a year in, I was able to get a car, but the only thing that I could afford somehow was a Ford Expedition that was being sold. So mine was probably always the biggest snowbank in there, so I knew where my car was. So the general idea about the sway is just that you can, I graduated, I put the Microsoft here account because I got hired by Microsoft from college straight away. And funny enough, I actually finished with psychology and computer science. So now you know a lot about me. I moved to Charlotte. After that, was part of the MAC program, which is Microsoft Academy of College Hires. And they put us in training. This is all the people that were hired in that program. Most of them are still with Microsoft. And one of the first days, what they did, they told us how to, force the blue screens and how to fix them. So that's why all those screens, this is what we did the first few days of Microsoft. And, some of the things, what I do. And within my first 2 to 3 years, Premier Field Engineering requires travel. I kind of showed you all the places I went around. So when they send me to deliver workshops and things like that. So it looks like a pretty flower. I was going more than, so people tell me, hey, this is this location in Charlotte. I'm like, yeah, tell me the address because I have no idea where it is. Charlotte, okay. And then, I got a house some time ago, last year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, this little beautiful townhome. And I had this frog that used to come and visit me for the first few weeks. I guess maybe I stole her house or something. It didn't turn into Prince Charming though.
You have to kiss it.
I tried. And funny, it's beautiful. It's a Berwick community just behind the outlet mall. I don't know, the outdoor outlet mall thing, you guys know. And in front of my house, we have the volleyball court, so it's beautiful, and then the swimming pool. Not mine, but I call it that it's my front backyard, so it's mine, right? And some future stuff, I wanted to, that's done, really old, I wanted to earn masters in IT leadership, which I actually did last May, so.
Congratulations.
Got some of my future. So this is what this way is supposed to be, very interactive and easy to kind of present instead of the typical PowerPoint.
Nice.
Yeah. Now you know even more about me. I was not planning on doing this. Any more questions? Because I know we're kind of out of time. Was this helpful? Any feedback is good. I know we covered a lot, and I'm happy to work it out. That I can't come all the time because unfortunately my schedule is crazy, but I'm happy to come back and go deep into specific topics if there's interest in this. If you didn't like what I was doing and how I was presenting and you don't want me again, that's fine. I'm not going to get offended. I have plenty of things to do. Trust me, Microsoft keeps me busy. But if you did like it and you would like more, and you have specific questions, because
Send you an email that you won't read.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, and you will call me. I'm happy to come back. And I'm happy to come back and do more in detail and more specific, because I know we kind of rushed through a lot of things. So
We liked it.
thank you.